Good morning, Karen from Quantum Heart Awakening. Today we're going to do a Divine Feminine check-in. So I've been a little MIA because I've been building some events in 3D. Tonight is my first Reiki event. I'm doing an intimate evening of Reiki. So if you find yourself passing through or located in Connecticut and would like to come, it's in Cheshire, Connecticut at the Reading Room. You could always message me for any details. All right, feminines, let's get into it. Let's get some support for you. It's been a while. All right, what are the feminines confronting? What do we need to know? Deep breaths, everyone. All right. Let's see here. We have leadership, set your goals. We have animal bonds, stand up for all animals, including your animal body, right? Anything else? Thank you. 7 heavenly virtues, keys to goodness. In the unconscious, we have, is that on camera? Letting go, learning how to let go. Yeah, which usually requires a lot of forgiveness and release and trust in the future, trust in something beyond what you're feeling in the present moment. Okay, let's drop in. This is just like a commentary on the collective. I've been noticing that there hasn't been a lot of support for the feminines. I think because the feminines are the keepers of gnosis, that it makes sense to me that a lot of people watching these videos are usually predominantly feminine energies. Remember, that has nothing to do with man, woman, right? These are just energies. And so because of that, a lot of the videos you see out there are for divine masculine, and that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. But in my experience, it can leave the feminines feeling a little neglected. And even though the feminine energy is incredibly powerful and strong and can do it, right, can handle it, can navigate these rough waters, this rough terrain with ease and grace and flow, it doesn't mean that the feminines haven't been lonely in their pursuit of detachment, in their pursuit of surrendering to the mystery. So I just want to really name that because it continues to come up that the feminines, although powerhouses, there's this capacity that has been reached regarding, doing your work diligently, but alone and isolated. And I think when we kind of were raised in villages and more neighborhoods and more community, it wasn't a big deal, right? You had neighbors, you had family, you had aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody's close by. So you had people to turn to, people to ask for help, people to watch your kids while you went and had a moment or whatever it is. And I'm noticing that is lacking. It's showing up in my friend group, in my professional group, just kind of this, just because we can, it doesn't mean we should, right? There's something about that. So this is a call to a higher desire, to higher support. Just because you can do everything on your own doesn't mean you should, doesn't mean you have to, right? And so that's another feminine thing of learning desires, learning what would really support you. Know thyself, right? Know thyself and know thy limits, know thy boundaries, and what do you need to put in place, or who do you need to reach out to or ask for help from so that you can sit on your throne and fill your cup so that you can fill up your family, your children, your work, your whatever. Okay, that was my little rant and just noticings that I've been seeing in the collective. Okay, feminines, let's get into it. So, again, we have leadership, we have animal bond, 7 heavenly virtues. So, interesting. I can't stop staring at 7 heavenly virtues. You've heard of the 7 deadly sins. Well, this is 7 heavenly virtues. And even though I could list what those maybe are, what's more important here, feminine, is that you are called to step into this authority, to step into this authority over self, your space, your energy, your community, your wants, needs, desires, boundaries, limitations, your goals, your dreams. There's something here, feminines. That was an interesting Freudian slip. Let me just feel into that. Okay, moving on. I was just about to say, do you see this beautiful feminine here holding a torch? It's like feminine energy illuminates from within, right? They water their seeds, they grow something, and then they bask in the glow of their harvest, whatever that is, right? You magnetize this growth towards you. And so, because you've been doing this for so long, whether you're conscious of it or not, and this just came up with a conversation with one of my consciousness sisters. You know, those of you who are diligently seeking on the path, who are seekers, who are, way showers, who keep turning over every stone, it's really easy to forget how, when you're doing incredibly difficult work, when your nose is to the grindstone, when your head is down and you're just taking accountability, confronting the difficult things within, doing the shadow work, doing all the things. It's really wild when you pause finally and look up. You realize how far you've traveled. You realize that actually you've been learning how to tread water in incredibly rough seas. And in doing that, even though you might perceive that you are still quote unquote struggling, you've been in training at such a high level of skill, feminines, that you are now this like Olympic swimmer. And it might not feel that way because you continue to put yourself in incredibly rough terrain, in rough climates, in weather you can't always control, in chaos. And so I've said this for years now. When we are constantly living at the edge of self. What do I mean by that? We're living at, when you get to your edge and you feel like you're going to cross it and you're really at capacity, that's where all the alchemy happens, right? That's where all the transformation happens. But when you're constantly in that space and maybe not pausing to integrate long enough or wait until the embodiment anchors a little bit, when you are consistently putting yourself at the edge of the flames, where you can feel the heat, but you don't want to get burnt, and you're constantly in that space, you could feel like, you're not really moving, when actually you are learning and growing at such an exponential rate that it's almost imperceivable to the eye. It's like you can't. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like you're consistently doing the hardest work, and it's very easy to feel like a failure or feel like you're not where you should be, but really you have overcome and knocked out a lot of obstacles, and you've met a lot of checkpoints and goals, and you're harvesting so much, but it might not feel like that to you, feminines, because you're consistently stepping into the flames of transformation. And now I just noticed, look at this torch she's carrying, and now her hair looks like it's on fire. They're walking in the sunlight. There's this Leo energy is very much, right, the king of the jungle, right? Being the master of your own ceremony, being the stepping into mastery of your own energy, right? We came here as spiritual beings, and we got a physical vessel, right? We're an infinite being and now stuck in a finite vessel, and we have to learn how to navigate this finite world grounded in our infinite truth. And now, feminines, you're stepping into this mastery where you actually can rely on your skills. And more than relying, you actually trust yourself to lean on those skills, to lean on yourself. You trust yourself that you will not betray, abandon, or reject any parts of self. So you quite literally are walking in this splendor. You are walking in a way that is in soul alignment, where your soul is on fire, and that fire will illuminate your next steps. You trust in your skills. It's easier to take a step towards the mystery because you trust yourself. Does this make sense? I hope this is making sense. All right, hold on. I have to cough. Excuse me. I just got really dry mouth. All right, where else are we going, Spirit? Yeah, another part of this, here's the thing, feminines, you've leveled up, right? Every new rotation, every new echelon, every new, it's like picture a high-rise building, and on the ground floor, maybe it's like not the most coveted floor. Maybe you hear all the noise, you could smell the garbage on the street, whatever. Your goal might have never been to see yourself in the penthouse. But now you have these skills, you have this mission and purpose. You trust yourself enough to bring it into fruition. You are allowed, not just allowed, but it is your birthright to start envisioning yourself in the penthouse, whatever the penthouse of life is for you. No one can tell you what that is. Maybe it's a literal penthouse. Maybe it's having a homestead and a farm and living, sovereignly and sustainably with Mother Earth. Maybe it's having a certain amount of money in the bank. Maybe it's having a successful relationship and family life. Maybe, fill in whatever your penthouse goal is, whatever your penthouse dream is, you're allowed to start envisioning it and impranaing it. What do I mean by that? Literally, quite literally, investing your energetic currency to animate that dream, to animate that vision. By doing, understanding that your confidence, your power, the management of your personal power is one of the greatest accomplishments and achievements and skills that you will ever work on in this life. It is so important for us to be able to, again, call our spirit back from places it doesn't belong once our intuition is telling us it doesn't belong there, right? Another part of this confidence we have this animal bond here, stand up for all animals. So feminines, okay, the obvious, if you have some sort of passion or affinity to animals or fighting for animal rights, maybe this is speaking to you. I just had to say the most obvious, the obvious response. But for me, and this came out almost immediately when I pulled the cards, with all of this confidence came a profound amount of healing, feminines. With all of that healing came a lot of parts that you may have pushed into the shadows. When you heal something, and okay, here's the good question. How do you know when you've healed something? Well, when you go near it, it doesn't sting. When you go near it, it doesn't give you a pit in your stomach, or it doesn't piss you off anymore, or it doesn't have an energetic attachment to you. It doesn't affect you in any way. That's how you know when you're really over something, when you vibrated it fully through your system and you have released it. So part of what may arise as you step deeper toward your dream goals, to your, let's just call it our penthouse goals. Part of what is so powerful is in reclaiming the parts of you that maybe you've pushed away. I catch myself tap dancing around this. Let me just say it directly. Feminines, you are revisiting your animal body, your animal self, the connection with your animal, your inner animal. What could that mean? It's your instinctual body. It's your evolutionary body. It's the body that has gotten you here to this point in this part of your journey. You are, it is, let me say it in a different way. It is safe to be one with your animal body. Look at this person, creature, fairy, who's almost wearing this eagle-like headdress, and they're flying with all these, not just one flock of birds, but all different varieties. So there's something here, feminines, you're safe. It is safe to trust your animal body in all sorts of different circumstances. Now, listen, I have a lot of compassion for those of us who have a long history of crossing our own boundaries. I think it's built into the feminine thing. growing up in a very patriarchal centered energy, to abandon self, abandon our own wants, needs, desires, fears, boundaries, needs, comfort for other people, for a partner, for our children, for a family, for a boss, for anyone else. And so feminines, as you step deeper into this leadership and this confidence, self-esteem, and become illuminated like from within, it is safe now. You can trust that you can now fly with all these different scenarios and circumstances that may or not arise in life on your path. Okay. Anything else? My nose just started running. That's interesting. Sorry, I'm just feeling into what that means. You know, feminines, quite literally, to hit the ground running, you have to decide, what are your heavenly virtues? What are your virtues? What are your keys to your presence, to your goodness, to your power? What are the things, like, you could read a bunch of books, but at the end of the day, no one has lived your life. No one has confronted what you have confronted. I've just said this phrase the other day with my friend, and I loved it. We talked about the quantum cocktail. Now, when you come down here to Earth and you get a body, you carry with you a quantum cocktail of experience. What does that mean? That means you have your own unique energetic blueprint for your skills, for your personality, for the way you're showing up in the world. You have your own mechanism, your own secret lock that only you have the key for. And so, yes, you can absolutely, read books and listen to podcasts and watch my videos and all these things, and reach outside of self to maybe gain inspiration or guidance or support or fill in the blank. But only you can decide what your virtues are that will unlock your most aligned life. No one could, I'm saying virtues, but really, and I hear my father talking, may he rest in peace, he would always say virtues are habits of doing good. And so what are your habits of doing good that would set you up for success? And now success, let's not, I think everyone do you hear me? Do you hear me trying to say this? I'm like defeated because I think what's been very problematic in our society is hustle culture. My voice just crapped out right there. Hustle culture. There's all these apps on how to maximize productivity and do all these things. And it's like each one of us has become our own like mini, social media corporation, or our own, our name, who we are, our blueprint of us online, virtually on all social media platforms. It's become this like machine, and we have to be careful to make sure we know who's driving it, right? Is something else or someone else driving what our choices are, or is it coming from within? Are we illuminating our choices? Do we feel sovereign in our choices? What does that mean? Do we feel completely in alignment with our choices? Do we feel safe and empowered to make those choices? Okay, let's move on. I don't know why my nose is running like crazy right now. Let's get some of these. Where do we want to go, Spirit? All right, anything? Okay, anything else for feminines? Let's just get them all out. That was interesting, and then we have these two. Okay, we have Beauty, Devotion, Priestess, Mystic, Teacher, Sisterhood of the Rose, another Priestess card. How are you being called to step up and lead? And Starseed, what lights you up? Let's look in the unconscious. We have Soul Family, call in your tribe. You do not have to do it alone. Yeah, this is echoing what I said in the beginning. And so, again, the unconscious position is what's being pushed in the shadow or what is being hidden from you. This is echoing what I started saying in the beginning of this reading, what my intuition felt where the feminine was going. feminines, you have proven to yourself that you can do it, right? You've been put in situations and circumstances that you had to survive and overcome so that it would test your own skill and your own tenacity and your own grit and resilience, right? You've now proven to yourself and the world around you that you can accomplish XYZ. So now you get to relax and sit back on your throne, trusting that you know how to do this, but also trusting that you don't have to do this, right? So again, some of you feel like that you have to do this alone, that you're treading water alone, that no one else is here to help you. This is an illusion, right? This is just a false perception, and it's totally understandable. If you're still struggling to overcome this particular pattern of behavior. Now remember, hyper independence can also be a trauma response. I won't go too much into that, but you can research that. If you have grown up in an environment around people that were not reliable, and you learned at a young age that the only person you can rely on is yourself, it might be very difficult now to share responsibility, to share duties, to trust that someone else is going to show up in the way that you would show up. So now this is a process of healing. This is just a regular old, how can I take one kind step towards trust? What does that look like for me? What am I confronting? What circumstances am I in currently that would support me working on this, or that would benefit? How would this benefit me by allowing other people to take the reins? Do I want to talk about this? Yeah, okay, I'm going to. So the other thing too is if you are also, I'm trying to find the words. Okay, let me just say the thing. The topic is perfectionism and perfection templates. This is so deeply rooted in us because our ego is so terrified of being judged. That's just built into the system. We're all, we all have a baseline, fear of being labeled, fear of being judged so hard that we will be excommunicated from society, and we will not have the support we need, and we will not survive, right? That's a very animal thing that we all have in our mechanism. It's a universal kind of fear. So where I'm losing my thread. Hold on. Oh, so this other thing too of another obstacle to letting other people show up for you, feminines, is maybe letting go of the perfection templates. Like, okay, if your partner, if you never let your partner do something because they never do it the way you do it, and the way, it's not perfect and it's not, the right way, really start to look at those moments, look at those intersections where you're confronting that, and then look at the circumstances. If it's not done perfectly, are they legitimate, or is it like, okay, if he, or she doesn't pack the car correctly or pack the lunches correctly, or, is it okay? So another piece of this is giving other people permission to show up freely as they are. So another kind of mild trauma response is if you were raised in an environment where you weren't allowed to be who you were, where you were not allowed to be your messy self, this can contribute to, having incredibly high standards for yourself and the people around you. How can we, not how, but I'm inviting us to bring a profound amount of grace and ease and kindness to self and other as we learn to navigate these things. Essentially, how important, like, where is perfectionism dire? There's probably very few places in society where perfectionism is dire. Like a surgeon, you'd probably want your surgeon to be a perfectionist, right? You'd probably want that person to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. However, maybe the guy who's making your slushy, maybe it's okay if he's not a perfectionist. So feminines, I'm calling you to a higher level of discernment. I'm calling you to a higher level of evaluation. Really start placing like a value system, maybe 1 through 5 or 1 through 10, on like how dire is it that this be perfect? Is it better that it's done and completed than it is perfect? Usually that's the case for most situations. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, and then we have, how are you being called to step up and lead? It's funny. A lot of these cards could go either way. There's an immediate outward expression of these messages, and then immediately there's an inward expression. So how are you being called to step up and lead? Maybe this is in your family, your community, at work, at your in your spiritual community, with your mission, with your purpose, right? Or it also can be, how are you being called to step up and lead these parts of self that would otherwise be terrified to step into something bigger or greater? Remember, you're stepping into this leadership. So with that action comes all of these other circumstances. You might put yourself and all of your internal family parts in positions that are confronting, that might make them nervous. So how can you confront and parent those parts of self that are rebelling against you taking on more work or stepping into a daring or courageous goal? You're being called to step up and lead your internal parts, your fears, your desires. So much about boundary, hold on. There's so many messages coming through. Okay. So often when we talk about consent and boundaries, it's very much focused on the no, and that's as it should be, right? That's the hardest part. But oftentimes we neglect our yes. So discerning a no is equally as important as being able to discern a yes. And sometimes we are so maybe dysregulated or been so used to being in situations where people cross all of our boundaries that sometimes we say no when we actually want to say yes. Now, I actually think that that's the harder discernment, because it's much easier to let go of an opportunity or not step up or not have the hard conversation or make the difficult request. Because here's the thing, what's the additional fear when you make a request? When you make a request, you put yourself out there and someone can say yes or no, right? So when you make a request, there's a potential rejection on the table, and that's scary, right? That's scary for most people. So you're being called, feminines, to pause and create some safe space in your schedule to really allow your animal body to share a desire with you. Do you really want, most of us are touch deprived in this society. It's just, especially if you are part of this kind of very American culture, most of us are touch deprived. In other cultures, they hug and kiss and they're touching, and men touch other men, and it's a beautiful, loving, beautiful thing. In our culture, I think it's a little bit more conservative in that way. And I'm not saying everybody, this is a gross generalization, so take it with a grain of salt. But most of us crave touch. So I'm curious why that's coming up right now. Are you, when's the last time you've been touched or held? Or, when's the last time you've held someone's hand and looked in their eyes and just said, hey, I'm here for you. I love you. And it could be your partner, but I think the hard part is that usually outside of an intimate partnership, we very rarely have that kind of platonic, consensual, loving touch. And I think it's what healthy societies are built on, and we have so little of it. So this is clearly coming up for a reason. Again, then we have this starseed, what lights you up? So again, there's so much permission here, feminines, for you to go after your deepest, most soul aligned goal. What is the thing that feels like a little edgy for you, a little scary? What would be a little bit of a scary goal for you to set? You're being called to lean into that. I'm not inviting you to cross your boundary, of course, but I'm inviting you to meet yourself at the edge of self and have that conversation. Have that conversation, entertain it, and role play it. If okay, I was just telling a friend this. 5 years ago, me facilitating an event and speaking and doing all the things would be utterly terrifying. And today, 5 years later, I'm doing it and I don't even think about it. I'm just talking to you guys. I'm on YouTube. You guys hear my voice all the time. That would have been very edgy for me several years ago, and now it's not. So when I say edge, I'm saying, what is the scary thought? And then meet yourself there and just have a conversation. What's scary about it? What do you think's going to happen? How do you think people are going to perceive you? Like, confront each individual fear. Write them down. You could journal through it. You could even start a little journal that's just for your edges. You could call it My Edges, right? Because it's important. Knowing thyself and knowing thy boundaries, knowing thy limitations is so critical for us being able to receive our intuition and implement and deploy our discernment in a healthy way. If that mechanism is not functioning properly, then we can get ourselves into some pretty hairy situations. And most of us have, right? When we don't know how to honor our own boundaries, or we don't love ourselves enough to trust in what our system, our nervous system, and our intuition is telling us, it's very easy to cross our boundaries, right? That's happened to me many, many times. I spent years and years healing from it and trying to make different choices. And so part of the mechanism that allows us to do this is to practice the pause. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, but to really, in these moments where you don't know, don't take an action. And if someone's pressuring for you to know and make a choice, communicate your needs. Say, I need more time to make this decision. I'm not able to make it in this moment right now within this conversation. And then, if they need an answer, keep negotiating. Say, well, I can't tell you right now, but I could tell you maybe in 3 hours. And if that's not good enough, I don't know, you'll have to confront those bridges when you get to it. Maybe you can email them in 30 minutes. Like, you just need a moment to ground yourself so that you can hear all of the data that your body is trying to tell you. And so a huge part of this is why meditation is so important. This is why being able to quiet the mind and knowing how to navigate the vagus nerve and calm the nervous system. So it's literally like being in a crowded room and everybody's screaming and someone's asking you to make a really important choice. It's really hard with all of that noise to hear what your own body mind is trying to say to you. So your job is to create that calm, create that quiet. Now, of course, masters, right? Masters can access that inner calm, that inner quiet, inner room full of chaos. But we're not all masters, right? We could be working on this. This is a journey. This is a lifelong journey for most of us. So go easy on yourself if you need like a week. Like, if your friend invites you to a dinner and you're like, you know what, I can't commit to that. If you need a week to make that decision, just be honest about it. Be like, you know what, I would feel more comfortable if you're open to making a last minute plan. And not everyone is. And at that point, you could say, okay, then let's try for another time. You're allowed to hold your center for what you need versus what makes someone comfortable. You're allowed to put I'm not saying it correctly. You're allowed to put your needs over someone else's comfort. That's what I'm trying to say. This is important because when you cross your boundary, you now will not be your most aligned self. You will not be present. If you say yes to a dinner with a friend and you're really a no, you're going to be pissed the whole time that you're there. You're going to be not present. You're going to be thinking about, oh, I could be home doing XYZ or laying in my bed or whatever. So it behooves all parties for us to Implement our no when appropriate. Okay. Anything else for feminines? Where do we go? Where do we go next? These flower cards are calling to me. Let's see what we got. Anything else for feminines? Wait, is there a specific questions? Spirit, is there a specific line of inquiry you want us to follow? I mean, personally, I'm more curious about this animal body, but I think they're telling me to lean into the 7 heavenly virtues. Spirit, I will lovingly receive what you give. Anything else? Oh, does that say what I think it says? Yep, it says passion. Okay, maybe Spirit's going to answer both, because Spirit is incredibly generous and always shows up for us. All right. Anything else? Let me just get everything. Everything's flying everywhere, but I think this is my most versatile deck, and it's so funny because I didn't like it for so many years. Oh, hold on. Cards on the floor. I didn't like it for so many years, and all of a sudden started really talking to me. Okay, we have passion, we have fertility, we have dazzling charm, we have, what does it say? Rebirth in the reverse and truth. Let me feel into that for a moment. Okay, I know why I was drawn to the flowers. So do you remember what I just said? I said, I personally, me, Karen, the human person, was very interested in the feminine's connection with their animal body. And yet I felt Spirit was telling me to lean into these 7 heavenly virtues. What's interesting, in order to grow in this life, in order to birth things, in order to have this abundance of fertility, we need to stand up and step into this divine leadership role over what our passion and truth are. What is your truth in this present moment? Can you act on it? Can you implement boundaries around it? By doing this, by taking massive accountability for your own truth in the present moment, despite what it looks like, despite how it's going to be received, this is what will give you more oomph, more life force to ignite this passion. Once you have this beautiful dazzling charm and all of these flowers are in full bloom, in order to step into the full bloom of who you are and to be able to flow and navigate life and have, be a fertile myrtle, if you will, you are being called to become a diligent steward of your own passions, right? Honor your boundaries, honor your truth, the truth of the moment, no matter how uncomfortable it is. So we have this rebirth card in reverse. So yeah, there's a little bit more work to do, feminines, no, let me not say it like that. Listen, as you step into this deeper leadership, by stepping into leadership, you are quite literally saying to the universe, I will accept this role as the CEO of my life. I will hold my light in me as I move through this world, despite the circumstances around me, right? Because you're now equipped to handle all of this diversity, all of the diverse flavors of chaos. I have enough confidence to walk in the mystery because the light is within me. I will illuminate the darkness ahead of me. And because of that, because you can step into that trust, that knowing, that delicious, juicy relationship you have with self, with your passion, it is, I'm not saying this correctly. Spirit, can you help me out? Okay, wow, they make everything so much simpler. When you are on fire, when you illuminate your passion, it illuminates your path. Thanks, Spirit. I'm just laughing how complicated my human brain made that. Is there anything else to say? So this rebirth in reverse, it's not that you're stalled, feminine. It's not that something in the way. It's that you make the way by walking the way. Does this make sense? So it's not that you're failing at something and that's why this transmutation is stalled. It's not that. It's that the deeper you go into trusting self, the further your light, your fire, it's like, okay, if you have a match, I'm saying this wrong. If you are tasked with walking into a dark forest, would you rather have a match or a frickin' torch. It's this inquiry that when you trust that you have a torch, when you trust that it will not go out because you are ignited from within, you trust that you can journey through the dark forest, right? And the rebirth is not a destination, it's a journey. It's consistently unfurling for you, just as a flower in a bud would unfurl, right? You can see in a bud of a flower, you could see the potential in it. You know where it's going to end up. You know it's going to bloom. You don't need to monitor it every day and unfurl the petals for it. The flower knows what to do, right? It's been doing it for years and years and years. You can trust in the unfurling. Beautiful message, Spirit. Thank you for helping me clarify that, because I was struggling. All right, I just want to get one of these ancestor cards, angels and ancestors. Anything else for divine feminine? Anything else you want to leave them with? Yeah, okay. All right. This is hilarious. You know, our whole message now is about leadership, right? We have shield maiden, make plans and focus. We have the heart guardian, love and let yourself be loved. Feminines, this is the support card. Love yourself enough to make a request out to your friends, your family, your beloved, and trust that you are worthy. It is your birthright to allow yourself to be loved. And then we have snake, shed your old skin, shed the parts of yourself that wouldn't ask, that wouldn't make the request, that was too scared of rejection. You are not that person anymore. In the unconscious position, we have stand your ground. Trust in your resilience, feminines. You've been in much crazier situations and you've overcome. All right, let's not end on a Buddha wisdom card. Anything else? I got one, but let's get it. Okay, we have two. The force of the flowing river causes the flowers, the herbs, and trees to grow. The sacred wisdom in your heart has magical power for your spiritual growth. Could this message, now this is a big deck, could this message be any more on point and in alignment with all of this, down to mentioning the flowers? The force of the flowing river causes the flowers, the herbs, and the trees to grow. The sacred wisdom in your heart has magical power for your spiritual growth. Again, we are illuminated from within. Those who reach outside of self are taking the longer way around, right? Is this two cards? No, one card. And then we have emptiness is the absolute reality, the source and support of all things. You know, something I say often is, God, please clear my mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and astral body and physical environment so that I remain a hollow bone to receive your love, messages, and guidance for the highest and best good of myself and the planet. I say this multiple times a day because what it does is, for me, it sets the intention to empty. It sets the intention that I go through life and I'm a vessel and I pick up a bunch of crap. Right? And some of us are hoarders, right? Let's just speak truth to what the circumstances actually are. Some of us are hoarders and we need support. We need help. We need guidance. That's where I come in. You could hire me. I will help you do this. We need help emptying out. Emptiness is the absolute reality, the source and support of all things. Here's the thing. I say this all the time. You will not gain divine guidance if you're not leaving a spot open for the divine. If you are filling every nook and cranny of your life with something, there's no space for something new to come in. So you've heard me talk a lot about leaving a space open for the mystery. It's funny. Maybe I'll take a video of my event space tonight once I set it all up, but I've set it up partially, but I'm giggling because it's just me facilitating. I'm the only one throwing this event tonight. And I set up these two cozy armchairs, and for some reason, like just having one me sit on a chair didn't feel right. And so I put two and I felt so much better energetically. And then I realized, oh, that's because I'm quite literally in the physical realm leaving a seat leaving a chair open for the mystery. And I just felt so much better. It felt like, oh yes, if I invite the mystery to come to my event tonight, the mystery's going to show up. Spirit shows up every single time. It might not look like what we think it's going to look like, or it might not honor the request that we've made, but Spirit shows up for our highest and best good no matter how it comes through, right? So I'm inviting you feminines to leave a space open for the mystery in your life. Beautiful reading. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you're in Connecticut or passing through or want to make the trip, I'm going to do a 2-hour event. It's at the Reading Room in Cheshire, Connecticut. It's going to be from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we're going to have an intimate evening of Reiki. If you need any more information, you could always comment on this video or somewhere. And you could email me as well at quantumheartawakening@gmail.com. You could even call or text me at 203-699-6607. Is that my phone number? I don't even know, but it's on my website, KarenVitello.com. All my information is there. Is that all I have to say? I think that's all. Wish me luck, guys. If you don't mind holding me in your heart, tonight is this first event, and I'm excited, and you'll all be there with me. All right, much love to you all. I hope this was supportive, and I will see you in the next one.